warns NCIC, and we'll be getting the voice of Samuel Kobia, the chair of NCIC, in the course of this program. And Wetangula says he is ready to face rivals at party polls. Remember, last week on Ion Politics, we spent quite a bit of time discussing Ford Kenya and what exactly it means for the Western region this far. So we shall be getting to know more about that in just a short while. Now, Charles Nyachai, former Commissioner Charles Nyachai, why I'll vote no to BBI law change. I'll be telling you more about that and as far as the opinion piece is concerned. Now, the big read, latrines relieve slum dwellers of the shame of flying toilets. I still do not understand why International Men's Day had to coincide with the World Toilets Day. Maybe the ladies right here in studio will make me understand that. But basically, that is the front page of the Star for you this morning.
Now let us move on to the Daily Nation and get to have a quick look at what has been captured on the front page this morning. That is how it is looking like this morning. Let's start with the top right there. Fight for Murunga. MPs, the two widows, want mistress to place in court 10 million security. All right, I'll be getting to the details of that in a bit. Locusts are back. This is also still at the front there, at the top of the Daily Nation. The header, locusts are back, and this is what is happening in the northern and eastern regions of Kenya as they have been ravaged by the ravenous swarms, areas of Isiolo, Mandera, and the likes. The swarms are said to have crossed over from the borders and are now causing mayhem in those areas. I'll be giving you the details of how that story has been captured here on the Daily Nation. Getting to the main story there, classes under 10s, trees, and this is amid this COVID crisis. As you know, just looking at the state of classrooms in most schools, it is said that almost all of the classrooms have been occupied by grade 4, class 8 and form 4 students. And now the big question is that is looming is how will this situation play out once the rest of the students resume learning come January? I'll be giving you details of that in a bit. At the bottom there, how state neglect is killing doctors, and this is amid this COVID-19 pandemic that we are in. Healthcare workers, they have actually been putting up quite a fight, and there's been this star on social media where people are saying some of our health workers are suffering and the powers that be are not giving them the protection or this matter, the attention that it deserves, just trying to understand how they can come into play to help contain this situation, or rather just help protect our doctors, with so far 30 doctors having succumbed to COVID-19 complication, 12 of whom are said to be specialists in their areas of expertise. Still on the front page, the law review, the question to do with a BBI, and the fact that there's now the proponents are saying that the constitution cannot be changed less than a year to go to the general elections, and which is in August 2021. What is the way forward as MPs now await on what President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga are going to say, looking at the way forward. That is what has been captured in regards to the BBI and matters to do with the economy. Broke Kenya to dance to IMF's tune of funding. As you know, we are facing a biting cash crisis. Nairobi will have to implement tough conditions that have been imposed by the International Monetary Fund to top public purse. This was the words of the Treasury PS. All this and so much more coming up as we continue with this segment in the headlines.
Now we focus on the Standard this morning. That's how it looks like. That's a glimpse of the front page of the Standard this morning. And we start off with issues of the moral fabric, or one that exists or not. Now, horror of teens in party orgies. That's actually the big read on the Standard this morning. Shockers 2 are arrested after police stormed a house party and seized 44 children and recovered alcohol bang, as well as used condoms, just a day after an outcry over missing girls. The details will be coming up in not too long, but captured there is just a summary of what went down. It was a birthday party invite via secret Instagram page. 44 children aged between the ages of 11 and 17 were seized. Marijuana, alcohol, used condoms found at scene. Most of the teens were already intoxicated. Some came from as far as Machakos and Kericho. And a 41-year-old woman and her son are in police custody, while DCI has warned of gangs luring teenagers online. That's a big read on the Standard this morning. The story that took the country by storm at a time when we're just still recovering from, statistics that indicate that teenage pregnancies have been on the rise since schools closed over COVID. Now, also matters of BBI here took center stage with bigwigs red card alert for MPs in the new BBI proposal. Now, these are shrewd calculations. That's what the kicker says. Positions of Prime Minister and 2 deputies proposed in the Building Bridges Initiative report have raised stakes in the political party leadership at the constituency level, with top leaders and some governors now setting their sights on capturing their seats, or rather the seats. Also on page 7 is now Muslims will give their stand on the reforms. And just to give you a sneak peek is that SUPKEM says the BBI is not a priority. We'll be giving you details in regard to that. Then matters of health have also come about, is that just a story, a human interest story about stark choice, abort or die from cancer. A story of a woman who decided to go through with her pregnancy when she was still, suffering breast cancer. That is, she had to take a break from chemotherapy that would have otherwise saved her life. She chose the path of motherhood, and she lives to tell her story. Further on matters of the education crisis, finding crisis as schools plan to reopen all classes, and the dates have already been mentioned there, the 4th of January. Now, financing headache, the government is staring at a huge dilemma ahead of the reopening, as head teachers also push for additional money to plug deficits occasioned by COVID-19. On matters of public servants, or rather civil servants, is that civil servants who attain the mandatory retirement age of 60 will from January proceed without the benefit of any extension of service, as the Public Service Commission stamps its foot on application of the law. That's what in summary we have on the front page of the Standard this morning. We'll be giving you details in the course of this programming, which has, we call it in the headlines. Remember, we welcome your feedback.
Now guys, aliweza ama hakuweza? I'm talking about the deputy president. Unajua kafirifiri, kashube, kwa ubari.
Aliweza, lakini alifanya ni kama ameshtuka kidogo.
Aliweza ama hakuweza?
Ni kama alipigwa shock.
I'm sorry to say. Moving on swiftly.
So that is what was happening in Dubai this weekend. The deputy president is therein. And we shall be talking about why he had to take a trip to Dubai. Pundits argue differently on social media. But he currently, courtesy of a tweet he put out over the weekend, and he challenged Kenyans to emulate butcher Salt Bay.
Nasret.
Ebu tunyamazio story. Alafu tuangalie story ya SUPKEM and the fact that they do not have consensus or concurrence when it comes to the BBI. And that story is covered on page 2 of the Star this morning. It is something that I would like us not to highlight in depth right now, because we shall be getting into it in the course of In the Headlines, not in the headlines, Eye on Politics from 8 a.m. So join us for that conversation. However, 63 in intensive care units as 968 more people contract COVID-19. Okay. That story is on page 2 of the Star today. And I don't know, ladies, whether there is something we are supposed to say in as far as COVID-19 is concerned that we have not said. Is there?
Well, so much has been said, and just to tie up to what you have mentioned about COVID-19, is that we have clinical officers have issued a strike notice over PPEs. There was a caricature that was making rounds, especially on social media, where you have a doctor on one side in a mask,
trying to save a patient.
Save a patient who is
and hold
also
on to the oxygen cup.
And that is where we are in as far as this medical sector is concerned in light of this COVID-19 infections. And So far, if we can just give you some statistics here, is that 77,372 are the total confirmed cases in the country, with 968, having been people tested positive in the last 24 hours. I don't know what we're doing wrong, but I tend to think it also has to do with how prepared were we to deal with this health crisis.
No, Regina.
As well as individual responsibility.
By the way, let me just put a pause to what you've said. It's not how prepared we were. Who was prepared in the first place to deal with COVID-19?
No.
When people decide to disregard things and measures that have been put in place to contain the spread, honestly. Honestly.
Okay, fine.
Government will do what government is supposed to do.
True.
And that is prepare. They're going to marshal the counties to put in place measures. We've seen the summits going on, right? They're going to make sure that people can access whatever it is that they need to access to contain the spread of COVID-19. They're going to give you daily updates about what is happening with COVID-19. By the way, they're going to identify mass grave areas and procure body bags for you in the event you do not adhere to the directives. Now it's up to you.
All right.
I totally agree with that, that it is individual responsibility. But I have a question. Let me be the devil's advocate here. When Kenya confirmed its first case on March the 13th of this year, so many things were put in place, plans, blah, 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 strategies. We still have counties that have not matched up to that.
The 300-bed capacity.
You know, they have.
Why?
You're asking the question, the same question I'm asking. That's what I'm saying. On top of individual responsibilities, there are a few sections, especially within the county levels, that are not measuring up, or rather standing up and getting counted in the face of this adversity that we're facing as COVID-19.
And the elephant in the room is why?
Remember the scandal within KEMSA and how much the government stands to lose, in selling these PPEs and such. Now we're dealing with a crisis where clinical officers have issued a strike notice over PPEs. And it is our main story, and our reporter also has, the sounds and pictures from that particular report there. How about we just have a listen in, then we can come back and have the conversation around COVID-19.
We're here to ask the Kenyan government today, how many more of us are going to die, so that you can realize how dire the situation is.
The healthcare sector is once again mourning after the death of yet another medic who succumbed to coronavirus-related complications.
Today we have lost one of the principal clinical officer from Kisii, a very senior clinical officer who until his death has been a teacher, has been an ophthalmology and cataract surgeon working in Kisii.
The demise of the clinician from Kisii Level 5 Hospital, bringing to 7 the number of clinical officers who have been felled by the disease. According to the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Chairman Peterson Washira, the loss of lives could have been avoided if the government heeded to the advisories of health unions and those of World Health Organization to exempt from active duty those in the medical field who belong to vulnerable groups.
And we gave them a demand letter, an ultimatum of 7 days, of which they have turned a deaf ear. We have got no response from any of the employers on this, and our vulnerable members especially, they continue to be exposed because of negligence, because this can only be termed as negligence from the employers.
The union has forthwith issued a 14-day strike notice citing hazardous work environment.
That the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, and by extension the medical fraternity, is deeply concerned and distressed by the unpreparedness and the mishandling of the COVID-19 management by the Minister of Health and the county government, especially in regards to the protection and welfare of the frontline healthcare workers.
In case the employer goes to court, the health workers say they will invoke the Occupational Safety and Health Act and withdraw services until the safety is guaranteed. The union saying they can no longer negotiate on matters pertaining to the sanctity of life for their members. The clinicians' irreducible minimums include provision of adequate quantities of PPEs at all levels of health service delivery. All health workers belonging to the vulnerable groups or with pre-existing conditions be exempted from active frontline duty. Provision of a comprehensive medical cover to cater for health workers and dependents. All salaries of universal healthcare staff deployed to counties be paid within the next 14 days. Harmonization of health risk allowance. The country has over 2,700 healthcare workers infected with the virus. If the clinical officers make good their threat, the country could face a near total paralysis of the health sector, as the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union is also threatening to down tools if the demands are not met by December 6, 2020. Caroline Kama reporting for Channel 1.
Now that report, okay.
Just to link that particular story before we get to actually see how different stories have been captured on the dailies in regards to COVID-19. Here there's a whole page that has listed medics who have passed as a result of complications that came about as a result of contracting COVID-19. 12 specialists so far have succumbed due to this particular virus. But what are we doing as a country to prepare for this, and more so looking at the counties? Right.
Now, talking about county state of preparedness in as far as COVID-19 is concerned, reports also contained here in the Standard this morning indicate that 9 schools have reported cases of COVID-19, while even the judiciary, or rather the CJ, has closes a court over 10 people getting infected, and this happened in Meru County. Emily K. Bade prepared a report just to show the the level of preparedness and how counties are tackling the issue of COVID-19 across all the 47 counties. Here is a report.
Chief Justice David Maraga says beginning Monday, all litigants seeking urgent legal services at the Meru Law Courts will be required to do so virtually. Meru Law Courts became the latest judicial facility to be shut due to COVID-19 after a number of staff and advocates tested positive for the deadly COVID-19 disease. The judiciary has in the recent months turned to technology to keep the wheels of justice rolling in the face of the pandemic. Meanwhile, despite the COVID-19 pandemic hitting hard across the country, a number of Kenyans are still doubtful of its existence. It is for this reason that some residents in Kisii County are taking it upon themselves to conduct sensitization campaigns. Jane Matibae, a second-hand clothes who claims to have recovered from COVID-19, says people should not be afraid of seeking medical attention if they experience symptoms.
Mimi ilinishika nikiwa hapa kwa soko na sikujua nilishika na wapi, na tulikuwa na matanga nyumbani, wengine wameshika, wengine mmoja amekufa bado ako mochari, bibi yake bado ni mgonjwa. So what I can tell you, corona it's real and it's killing. Inaua, corona iko. Wala ambao mlikuwa mnasema mnataka kuona mtu ambaye amegonjeka, mimi niliugua na Mungu amenisaidia na nimepona.
Matibae calling on the Ministry of Health to conduct a targeted testing exercise for residents in the region. Meanwhile, a group of youth drawn from Nairobi County has decried the negative economic effects of the coronavirus pandemic on their revenue streams.
And they came up with ideas on how to address mental health. They came up with ideas how to go about addressing, for example, psychological first aid for the people who are affected with the mental illness during the crisis. And they brought in a lot of ideas that I think we would like to plug in and also support the community to address mental health in general.
That the corporates of Kenya need to do a lot more to be able to engage with the problem that we call our youth unemployment and youth employability. And so we are looking forward to working with many more corporate institutions because young people belong to us. And one of the things that I like about the African society is it's about communities, it takes more than one individual to be able to elevate any conversation.
The calls coming even as Thika Member of Parliament Patrick Wanaina called for patience among farmers, expressing confidence that markets will soon re-emerge stronger.
The issue is that the market has been very difficult during this COVID issue. And I can only tell you that be patient. You know macadamia has money, so be patient, take care of your macadamia. Money is coming, macadamia will come back to what it has been.
The legislator spoke amid cries by macadamia farmers that dwindling exports of the crop had negatively impacted their livelihoods. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade.
Well, that's an update on what is happening as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Has taken us to a fast break this morning. But when we return, we're going to be focusing on other stories that are making headlines, including what is happening in the political arena as well as matters of security in the country. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Ini last but a month kwa kalenda ya master maji mabazenga. She's so expensive, okay. Niweke kwa inamba buda boss tuma kitu na tumepia na ya kutoa. Shine already, it's time already. Shine already, it's time already. Make I tell you waiting up for a bullet. Baby, come and use your body, body, yeah. Back it up right away, yeah, right away. Gang Rada chafu nikishikaga hizo chafu bana shika shash pale bedroom kila siku bash hini lich ndagi kumba.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
And Ashok has put forth his proposal himself. You should now be delighted, Prince.
When are you going to understand, Ashok? I know that this time his decision isn't driven by emotions.
There's a threat on our motherland, then all the mothers of Magad will be in danger along with my mother. I must make a sacrifice. You have freed me from my worries by saying these words. To tell you the truth, you are the only person I trust.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi nitajua ni nini unachoficha. Na unajua mtu wa kwanza ambaye nitaenda kumuuliza? Abbas.
Hiyo itafanyika. Why don't you ask your son? Oops. I forgot you kicked him to the curb.
What have you told Wanjara?
Oh no. He found this one out all by himself.
How do I instill that?
Consistency. You need to show him that you have his back no matter what, or you will die trying.
It goes both ways.
I agree.
I told Abasi because he has the right to know. Just the way I have the right to know my real father.
About Pamela?
I won't tell Pamela.
But Abasi will.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You tried to have me killed. You good for nothing. You were a murderer.
But your request has been fulfilled. The woman is now in a better place.
I'm sorry, Mr. Medina, but your card has been declined.
Huh? Fabiola was attacked and injured while in prison. She's badly hurt.
I swear your family needs some heavy-duty cleansing, man.
Francisco's here with me. He has something to tell you. El paraíso
In Love with Ramon.
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Kenya. Glad you are still with us. We want to continue with In the Headlines, but the hashtag is still Good Morning Kenya on Twitter at Sam W. Njoroge, at Ray Manyara, and at Jane Boy. Here's how you can find us across the socials. Let us move on to some news that are making headlines, and this is what is happening in the north and eastern parts of Kenya as the hunger crisis has become an issue of state concern as locusts have resurfaced and are ravaging 8 counties in that particular region. These are Mandera, Garissa, Isiolo, Tana River, Kitui, Taita Taveta, and Samburu, with Samburu being the worst hit by this pest that are said to have arrived from Somalia, having been blown this way by the strong northerly winds and invaded these particular counties. So far, they have destroyed crops and vegetation, and they are threatening food security for residents and livestock in that particular area, and more so in Samburu, where they have been battling this infestation throughout the year, and now hopper bands have started forming. Now the government is being faced by the difficult task of trying to contain this locust, and which are expected to start laying eggs soon, because according to the Samburu Special Programs Chief Officer, that is Daniel Leisagor, he said that most of the swarms are almost maturing and could start breeding anytime soon due to the cooler environments that have been occasioned by the ongoing short rains. And looking at the swarms that are in Taita Taveta, the latest county to be invaded, they were last spotted heading towards the northeast Tanzania area, thus consequently reducing the threat on vegetation in the coming few days. But there still remains to be a big problem in this area, and more so looking at the next 2 to 3 weeks. If it is not contained, they are going to start laying eggs, but the disaster response team in Samburu are now saying to be using specialized drones which have been equipped with mapping sensors to be able to spray the destructive pests, and of course with the help of technology to just try and get to them before they cause much more damage.
All right, let's get to pages 4 to 5 of the Star this morning, even as we prepare for a traffic update at 8 a.m., by the way, courtesy of Jane Wamboy. But before that, let's get to page 4 to 5 of the Star. It's all about a security report, and Uhuru now lays bare, I beg your pardon, the crime security report. What are the threats to national security? Now, they have been identified, and this is their order. Number 1 is terrorism. Number 2, corruption. Coming in next, cybersecurity. Money laundering at number 4. Number 5 is organized criminal groups. 6, intercommunal conflicts. 7, cattle rustling and stock theft. 8, land and boundary disputes. 10, drug trafficking. Coming in next is security in learning institutions. And number 12 is illicit brews and substance abuse. 13, smuggling of contraband and counterfeit products. 14, proliferation of illicit small arms and light weapons. 15, influx of illegal aliens and undocumented immigrants. And 16 is land fraud. So that is the security report for you, as highlighted on pages 4 to 5 of the Star this morning. Oh, now I have your attention, huh? Okay, but very quickly, what Kikuyu in me, kwenda kabisa. Now, pages 9 of the Star this morning, it's all about a report that was launched by the DCI, and detectives now nab 44 teenagers in drugs and substance abuse raid in Nairobi. And all our, I took a pause deliberately, all our primary school kids. Wow. In Nairobi, Kiambu, and Machakos counties. What by the wako prima? The 44 who are nabbed are in primary schools. And now the concern is being raised. What's the quality of parenting that we're giving our kids? How come when authority has been surrendered back to the parent, things are going haywire? When schools were still ongoing, when the kid was under the teacher, things were contained. Mzazi amepewa mtoto for just some few months. And look at the headlines. Teenage pregnancies. I don't know what. Watoto, what does that say about us, the parents?
Answer that
what
question.
Does that say? Regina,
what
does that say? Like watoto wamepewa wazazi for months, not even years, months. And look at the headlines. Teenage pregnancies, drug and substance abuse, watoto wanapotea kwa nyumba, okay? Parents are crying on social media, trying to locate their parents. I want to go back to the 90s. I was raised better.
Regina, tumesema nini?
I was raised better.
But you know, there was this
question.
It
is what it is.
There was this question where stakeholders are questioning whether the consequences of being home outweigh the benefits of being at school.
Like, tunapewa watoto for months, and parents are on social media.
Now, let me give you a detailed report that has been shared by the Children's Department.
Detailed
and this is a conversation, and this is a conversation that every Thursday we've had on and off in regard to the safety of children in light of even adoption of online, exposure to ICT and such. Now, stakeholders within the Children's Department, or the Child Advocacy and Rights, say that when children are home, like before we tried to do the CBC, you'd actually tell April, August, as well as December holidays is when crimes against children were on the rise. And now we've had over 6-7 months. So to answer your question, Sam, is that whenever children are not in school, they're susceptible to,
Susceptible,
societal...
please.
I mean, leave me alone. I'm not doing what we're doing. Remember, I have a heavy tank coming from Mount Kenya, Meru Town, Watu Hava and Watu Ambas. We don't have the we have the n. Now, the risks that children face online, and this is an article that has been given a lot of prominence in the issue of the Standard this morning on page 4 and 5 in regard to the outrage as 44 children, as you mentioned there, teens arrested in an alcohol bang-filled sex party, what we refer to as orgies. Yes, indeed, it's 2020. It's the 21st century. Yes, you're hearing this right on national television quite early in the morning. Now, this report indicates that the risks that children face online include trafficking, sexual and physical abuse, kidnap and murder, as well as exposure to violent pornographic content and damaging them psychologically. Now, the Children's Department notes that in the situation analysis accompanying the National Plan of Action against sexual exploitation of children in Kenya, there's been a spike in the number of reported cases of online sexual exploitation of children by pedophiles. The conversation we're going to be having this week on Thursday will regard to that issue of parenting. Who is failing? Where are we failing? And the exposure to online. How has it, made our children vulnerable to such issues? And what can you do as a parent or a guardian to ensure that your child, stays away from this situation? Now, still focusing on matters of crime watch, we remember that 2 weeks ago the president received a certain report, and Serafina Robi has the details of what was contained in that particular report and what various institutions are doing in as far as arresting matters of crime in the country are concerned. Here's the report.
Detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations say preliminary investigations reveal the children were from Nairobi, Kiambu and Machakos counties. Police are probing into how the children sneaked out of their homes and traveled that far without raising suspicion from their parents. Their host, a 41-year-old woman identified as Millicent Kithinji, was also arrested by the police. The arrest of the 44 teenagers has attracted varied reactions from Kenyans on social media, with some blaming parents for the moral decay. The arrests come just a day after the Directorate of Criminal Investigations announced that it has launched investigations into a sex racket that preys on young girls. 6 teenagers were rescued from the notorious gang said to be operating in Nairobi. The DCI urging parents to take a keen interest in their children's activity both at home and on social media. For Channel 1 News, I'm Sarafina Robi.
I am telling you, the conversations hapa ndani kumewaka moto. By the way, Sam akuku anawaka moto na anaendelea kujipepeta kuhusu this conversation about these kids and the fact that, according to him, parents are losing control. 26 boys and 18 girls.
They have lost control. They are not losing, they have lost.
They have lost control.
They have lost.
Raise is the tweet you wanted to pull out.
How do you get a child for months and look at the headlines? Teenage pregnancies, alcohol abuse on the rise. Now kids are disappearing. And all in primary and secondary schools. What does that tell you as a parent?
It's not even a parental issue.
How? By the way, do you know, 80s, 90s, hallelujah, praise the Lord.
Amen.
Yeah? The decision to get a child was not circumstantial. It was a decision, like tupate mtoto. Squeezy, oops, kako. Nakakisha land, kababa, kamama. Unataka nini? Sijui capital punishment.
Yeah. Joro, sip some hot water.
I can't.
Some hot water.
And now these are the headlines.
Some hot water.
The DCI is not investigating corruption.
Investigation corruption.
It is investigating kids getting lost. Alafu wakipatika, actually they're not lost. They deliberately decided to leave. And then wanakupata in the middle of a media interview. Na wanaingia wanakuuliza, what are these cameras doing here?
Hot water, hot water, hot water. Hey. Joro, sip some hot water.
Where?
In your mug.
Aye.
Mtoto mlevu ndio.
During our era.
Sam.
During our era.
You've belabored the point enough.
Ungechapwa ushangae. Siku hizi ni kababa kamama. Here we are. The consequences. Wacheni kutushtua na Twitter na hashtags na headlines. As we even get to understand why International Men's Day had to coincide with World Toilets Day. Because I have a report on pages 12 to 13. Because it takes a lot of shit to make pages 12 to 13.
Next, moving on swiftly. Now, talking about that issue and the role that parents are playing, there's a tweet here and it was made public. Question. This is to the DCI when these young children were caught. Question. Do you guys still whip the kids back to their senses before handing them back to their parents? Like our parents used to request back in the day. Okay, do not answer that. This is none other than Lydia Kinyanjui, who was posing this question to the DCI after, it made it public that some of the kids had been found, the ones that had been missing, 3 of them had been found. And this was a question that was asked, a valid question that most Kenyans have been asking. The issue of corporal punishment. Standing in the corner no longer works in the African setup. And I think it's during the formative ages that you really mold your child. There's no way you can start beating up a teenage girl or boy for that matter. If you do not instill discipline in them in their formative age, you cannot do it. You cannot do it now. You cannot bend a grown tree. You can't. So you just survive with your consequences. So as a parent, I think we also need to go back and look at what we have embraced in this new era that you're calling the tech era, the 21st century, and let it go if it's going to mean that these are the leaders of tomorrow. I mean, give them 10 years, they'll be 27, right? Yeah. They'll be probably working somewhere or leading an organization somewhere. Can you imagine?
Or being a mother or a father to someone and misleading them
and
all together.
a role model to someone in the next 10 years. So what will they be? What values will they be instilling on the generation?
Do they
I think
even
we are
have
losing
those?
it. And this doesn't only fall on the parents. I also tend to think that back in the day, you did not need your mom or your dad to discipline you when you erred. Your aunt, your neighbor, they see you making a mistake, it would be a whooping.
Let me tell you something.
Today, if a child, for example, if a child makes a mistake, I, as a person who is watching, we have watched so many things happen in public parks and such when you have your children. But you cannot correct this child because of fear of their parent coming out and attacking you for seemingly attacking their child.
Actually,
yes, you are correcting
laws,
them, you know?
There are laws prohibiting that. Guza mtoto wangu, and we meet in court.
That is it.
So, you know, it takes a village. Back when we were growing up, there were things that were non-excusable.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. It did not matter where you were doing it, who was around. Okay? Squeezy, Kababa Kamama has grown up.
Oh boy.
Kababa Kamama has grown up. And now we are dealing with the consequences of everything that we've done over the years. And for some reason, we want to hold society as victim of circumstances. Give me a break.
Now, let me throw the spanner in the works.
Give me a break.
Now, imagine if you were the one who had gone out publicly to seek help in locating your children. Then you are the one doing the interview, as you saw in another media house. And your child who has been missing for a week walks past you and asks you what you were doing. In that situation, Sam.
Yes.
What would you have done?
Question number one. Why am I locating my own offspring?
No, we've
Why
already
am I
set
treating
up,
them?
no, we've set up the situation. I want to hear how you'd have handled it if you were the parent in this point.
Statistics indicate, and it's out there, if you lose your child, if you do not have a level of influence over your child by the time they are 8 years old, you have lost them. What were you doing for 8 years of your life? Paying school fees? Taking them to school? Delegating parenthood to teachers? And now that they've been handed over to you for months, you're complaining. Look at the headlines. If this is not an issue, I'm answering your question in a few. If this is not an issue to get people upset, I wonder what is. Parents have taken control over their, my manners. Parents have found themselves in a situation with their own children for months. And we are reporting alcohol abuse, drug substance, watoto warudi shule, tumechoka, teenage pregnancies, and now orgies, and you cannot locate them, yet you fired and you birthed these children. No.
I still want to hear what you'd have done.
Wacha nikwambie. Let me tell you, it would never have gotten this far.
Okay. So,
mtoto wangu anamea na anagrow akijua there are rules, there are procedures, there is discipline, there is decency, there is dignity, there is decorum. And that is not negotiable.
And consequences to choices.
And exactly, and consequences to choices. Squeezy kababa kamama akiongea, nyumba yote nyanyamaza.
You know,
we rise to the occasion. So let us rise to this one, Regina. And let us not even normalize this. Yeah. This is not right.
The thing is, we are protecting our children too much such that they are not able to make independent decisions. And when they do so, you are always there to shield them from the harshness of their decisions.
There's a difference between parenting, being a parent, and being a friend.
Good.
As a parent,
rightfully so, you should be both.
You should be both.
But parenting takes center stage.
Ladies, parenting is parenting.
Ladies,
friendship
let me correct you.
Is something altogether. Actually, I believe, let me finish.
Okay, finish.
We're not talking about friendship per se, and I think most parents feel that if they discipline their children will not love them. That is a misguided, misconstrued thought. your role as a parent is to discipline and mentor and guide your child to be the best version of themselves. If indeed you're genuine, a child's love is genuine, I tend to think. And I think we have misplaced priorities as parents.
Good.
Now,
let's do our role.
Sam, before you jump in and you can maybe respond to the both of us, I think looking at this generation of parents that we are, because these are the consequences of our parenting, we are coming from a generation that raised us using the rod. Akukuwa na issue ati we can negotiate things with your parents, right? Rightfully so, we came out right. But now, on the other extreme end, we are like, mi sitalea mtoto wangu hivo. Me, I'll be friends with my kid. And in trying to do that, you lose control of your child. Because unasema, oh, bi sitamchapa venye nilikuwa nachapwa, I'll try and talk to them. And in trying to talk to them, you are, rightfully so, denying them the discipline that they need. Not want.
Valid.
Need.
Valid.
So I think that balance of knowing when to bring in friendship with your child is what so many of us in this generation are lacking or do not understand. We become friends with our child and forget that you are also their parent.
But Jane, Regina,
no.
Let
me tell you, Sam.
Let me tell you, Ebu nikwambie.
Jira.
When we were growing up,
yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing parents talk about my child missing for a week. When we were growing up, fika 6 na huko kwa hiyo nyumba na ujaoga.
Wewe nagiza msikue nje pamoja.
Fika 6.
Moja wenyu
hauko kwa hiyo nyumba na haujaoga. This thing, I mean, these are consequences of choices we have embraced as parents. Okay? And let us not even be too quick to blame the media. Who bought the TV? Let us not be quick to blame the internet. Who pays the Wi-Fi? Who does not exercise parental control? And now, kids, primary school kids, are in orgies
and 17.
And at DCI are collecting used condoms on primary school kids.
And there's a 44-year-old parent in that house.
By the way, why are we even hashtagging this?
She's
you have failed. We have failed as parents. And let us not even use a platform on national television to sanitize that. This is not COVID-19. It's a generational crisis. As we take a break and come back next with Eye on Politics, Advice Mundala will tell us what is happening with the BBI. Watu hawaitaki, by the way.
As we are talking about that,
waliongea jana.
Wakasema si priority.
Wakasema si priority.
And on top of that, Sam, and also there is an article here that has highlighted some of the hotspots in regard that are going to be in contentious, hotspots in 2022. One of them is Gatondo South, where the current MP is Moses Kuria, and the possible challenger is likely to be none other than the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit.
Quickbit?
Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder.
399 shillings?
Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua shilingi 2 unaweza nunua micro. Shilingi 5 unaweza nunua hata gari.
So tupeleke huko hata
mtu aendi huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
What do you want?
Another beer would be nice.
Ani uko work summer?
I'm an IT man.
I'm positive I can get you a better deal with the same people.
A prisoner named Fabiola Medina was injured, and I have information that suggests you were bothering her.
There's so many terrible things happening to Wiswana.
Don't say that.
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
Believe in love.
Yes, Daddy was no time preacher man.
Just give me love when you can. If you need me, a woman in love.
It is an all-Egyptian affair and a first for CAF as two home teams face each other in the final of the 2020 CAF Champions League in Alexandria. Al Ahly will be all out to maintain their dominance in the elite African clubs competition against their arch-rivals Zamalek, who are raring for a fight to the death. You cannot afford to miss this thriller on the 27th of November only on your true sports partner, KBC Channel 1 from 10 p.m. We have a lot in store for you. Be on the lookout.
Unajua nini mam? Niko karibu kwenda shule. Na sitaki kuwa na stress kukuhusu.
Kristi, hebu rudi shuleni.
Wewe enda mtuwakilishe sisi wale tulishindwa na masomo vipoa.
When Angela and Christy meet at the university, their bond somehow clicks.
That is somewhere up there in the sky on his way to China. I'll never forget when he took us to Singapore. Wow, it was fun.
Followed by a friendship that would defy their parallel backgrounds.
Since umezoea shower, good luck inside there.
How is this door shut?
Kuma bezi nuko mshoishikilie mlango kwa frame.
This new territory presents all manner of fasts as influence, temptation, family histories, and peer pressure set in. The rest of their lives become a story of love, survival.
Wait.
Please mom, kubali tu story tumalizane twende home.
Influence, backstabbing, jealousy, and revenge.
Nimeambiwa tu kule stage muonekana na minji fulani mkikama hapa mtaani.
You decided to sneak from the hostel and go to Ray's studio without consulting me or Tiff.
Join us on Tempted the Campus Diaries as we explore this hilarious never-seen-before drama.
Hebu nilipe pesa zangu wewe.
With a touch to behold. A story of temptation.
Thank you for staying with us this far. We want to continue with Good Morning Kenya, but not before we give you a quick update on how the roads are looking. We are going to be starting with Mombasa Road. Now, by the disclaimer, Misi mnoma kadi. Nacheza kimimi. Msini judge. All right? Well, let's get to it. So let's have a look at Mombasa Road. I like going as far back as Imaradaima. Not Imaradaima, the City Cabanas overpass. There we are. Watu kutoka Airport North, mkikuja kujoin Mombasa Road hapo. Of course, as you get to join the highway, there's going to be traffic, but juu hapo ndo wana conglomerate, wanapatana. There's a bit of slowdown there. This is expected as you get to join the highway. But aside from that, moving slowly, not too bad. Stretches here and there where traffic is moving, slows down a bit, but that is expected on a highway. This is how it's looking so far as you go past the Imara Daima Junction. There it is on your screens. This is the Imara Daima Junction. As you can see, just to remind you the colors, green means it looks good. Orange means it's starting to slow down. Red means imesimama, na maroon means ni traffic, like parking lot, no movement whatsoever. So as you can see, there's a lot of orange happening, and that means the traffic is moving slowly, but moving nonetheless. And this is on the side that brings you to the city center. That is the Imara Daima Junction over there. Busy as always, bits and stretches where it speeds up, then it goes back to the slow pace that it was on. This is what the situation is as you go past the areas of the standard group area, going down past Panari. There's a stretch there that it opens up, and as you can see right there, there's a bit of roadworks that is happening. So this is also one of the reasons that is contributing to this slowing down that we are seeing here on our screen as you approach the Southern Bypass Junction. By the way, bypass, if there's always a bypass on your route to work or your place of business, take it. Run with it, go with it. It will help you get to your place of work or your place of business in the shortest time possible. And as you can see, Southern Bypass ndio hiyo, green all is the way. There's a bit of slowing down there, but that is expected, nothing too serious. Southern Bypass is a go, so if it can help you get to your place of work or business, please take it. Back to Mombasa Road as we continue on going down past Next Gen Mall as you approach the Inaitwaje Misawi place. Let me see. Let's get to it. The areas of Bellevue. Bus. As you get to the areas of Bellevue, not looking too bad. At least from that point, traffic seems to be moving much better past Bellevue, past Capital Center. Nothing that will keep you there for too long. Again, stretches of orange and green. That is always a thumbs up. As you go down, make your way up until to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Of course, as you approach the roundabout, the color changes to maroon. And maroon means tunasimama, tunasalimiana, tunakunywa chai. Kama ulikuwa umebeba breakfast, you can have it there. Kama kuna mtu wa crips unanunua, ukingojea traffic ifunguliwe up until to the Nyao Stadium roundabout, you're going to be there for a solid minute. So that is how Mombasa Road is looking. Not too bad generally, but as you approach the roundabout, you are going to spend a hot minute right there, but we will be here to keep you updated on how that will have changed as we proceed on with the show. If you are there, please take a picture, tweet us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Jane Wambui is my handle across all the socials. We'd love to know how things are looking on your end or from wherever part of Nairobi you're watching us this morning as you stream us live on www.kvc.co.ke/KBC-live. That is how you can always take us with you. So that is that for traffic at this particular time, but I will be back to give you another update on how things finna be going on the roads this morning.
Doreen, we miss you. We really, really do. Come back. Tomorrow, maybe? We can't have someone telling us at tufungue crisps tukule when we're stuck on traffic. But that is Jane Wambui telling you what is happening on our roads. And thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Kenya this far. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and it's now time to engage three gentlemen on what they think about the political discourse that has been over the past 1 week. We cannot possibly divorce it from BBI. And if you're to read the Star this morning, Moses Wetangula has a lot to say in as far as the leadership and running of the Ford Kenya party is concerned. Now, we'll be getting into that in just a short while. Coincidentally, he quoted something that was said on this very set on Monday last week. If you're there and you're doubting whether we are opinion shapers, well, we are. And that is why we invite your opinion and your voice on the show. Hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 at Sam W. Njoroge. In a bit, my guests will be giving you their Twitter handles so that you can be talking to them directly. Because some of these things, honestly, that you're telling me about them, I need a shrink. You know, I can't keep up. I'm not a Kardashian, guys, so I refuse to keep up. But with pleasure, I introduce to you these three gentlemen. I'm talking about Advice Amundalo, Frederick Sasia, and Daniel Orogo. But before we get to see their faces, how about we get to watch this live, not live, but this story that was done by Safina Chieng over the weekend in as far as the BBI discourse is concerned.
Father Simon Peter Kamomoe on Sunday ripped into the ongoing clamor for constitutional review, accusing leaders of turning their backs on the affliction currently facing Kenyans. Father Kamomoe urging leaders to drop the BBI debate and shift focus to the war on COVID-19.
Huu ni wakati wa kusahau kila kitu na kuanza kushughulikia watu ambao ni wagonjwa, na wengine wanatabu, wengine ni wanajaa, wengine wanakufa. Hata pesa ambazo zinatumika wakati huu kwa mambo hayo ya shughuli ya BBI yanatakiwa kutumika sasa kushughulikia watu ambao ni wagonjwa.
Father Kamomoe urging Kenyans to repent and make peace with God.
Kwa hivyo ni wakati wa kuangamiza, hata kurekebisha pia tabia zetu. Kurekebisha tabia zetu. Kwa sababu tabia zingine si hazilingani, haziambatani na watu wa ufalme wa mbinguni. Mtu ambaye hana huruma, huyo sio mtu wa ufalme wa Mungu.
His sentiments coming on a day that ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi called for consensus building on the BBI with maximum precaution to avert further spread of COVID-19.
Right now, our infection rate is very high, almost at 20%. So we need to protect each other. And that is why, if we can move forward by building consensus so that we don't expose our people to excessive dangers of this COVID, it will be very good for our country.
Meanwhile, Shinyalu Member of Parliament Justice Kizito has warned leaders against whipping emotions in the ongoing clamor for constitutional review.
Mtu asije akasema rege imekatishwa, hapana. Hiyo ni mambo tu ya watu ambao ni wale watu ambao wanajipendekeza tu kuleta mambo ya panganga, porojo nyingi na kadhalika. Nataka kuambia kwamba BBI iko mahala salama, baba yuko salama, Uhuru yuko salama, na tunaenda mbele wote. Na hii nataka niwaambie kwamba it will be a non-contestable. It will be a non-contestable.
The lawmaker spoke in Kakamega County, where he joined a section of area leaders in drumming up support for the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force report. Meanwhile, a section of Mount Kenya leaders has maintained that the window has been shut on any further amendment on the BBI report. Former presidential candidate Peter Kenneth, however, said that only a few recommendations would be included in the report and not all the issues being raised by dissenting voices.
Kila mtu ana usemi wake kulingana na hiyo mambo ya katiba. Angependa kitu ambao angetaka kitengenezwe. Lakini ni muhimu tukumbuke ya kwamba kuna points ambao zilitokea kama chanzo za shida Kenya wakati viongozi wetu walisalimiana, na hizo point ndio tunaangalia kutofaunisha na kutengeneza ili tusije tukakuwa pahali tumekuwa wakati wa uchaguzi kila wakati.
The BBI train is still on, and therefore we shall adhere to the timetable, and we tell our people that they look at the benefits of BBI. More constituencies to our region, more resources of the counties to our region, and that is why we are urging our people to look at that document objectively.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Acheng Oma.
I need to stop getting distracted by some of these colleagues of mine in studio. But we invite you to be a part and parcel of this conversation at KBC Channel 1 at Sam W. Njoroge, hashtag Good Morning Kenya. This is Eye on Politics, and my name is Samuel Njoroge. Can we reveal the faces now? I'm talking about Daniel Orogo, who is flipping through the dailies this morning. Daniel, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, do not be deceived. Advice Mundalo was taking a selfie a little bit earlier. Advice, karibu sana. And we've got the calm and moderate, Frederick Sasia. Fred, niaje?
Fit sana.
We need to reshuffle, right?
We need.
People have been taking conversations from Ion Politics to the Star every Friday.
We need to do it as early as
we need to revisit.
Yes.
Who does that?
They need to pay.
Yeah, it has happened 3 weeks, but again, we welcome you to the show and thank you so much for joining us. Participate online at KBC Channel 1 and at Sam W. Njoroge. I'd like to begin with you, Advice. What is this that is happening with the BBI? Is it a normal course of events, or there is more that meets the eye?
I think the BBI drum beats have been on for the last 2 years, and they are still on. But there has been a constant attempt for the last 2 years to always try and make it appear as though the BBI drum beats are not rolling as loud as they should. From the beginning, we saw some quotas that kept saying that the task force is illegitimate. For some time, we kept hearing them saying that the views that are being presented should not be the ones that are being presented. But the BBI task force kept moving on. And today, once the BBI task force postpones one of what they're supposed to be doing, some people go on a rant online and start saying reggae has been stopped. So I fail to understand why some people would say they want a consensus, but they are also very quick to say reggae has been stopped. So it is politics, but the beautiful thing about the BBI that I've been able to see, if the last 2 years are anything to go by, is that they have not been affected by the politics of this country, and they have stuck to their course.
But
so I think they are not affected.
Hatuski bitia reggae sai.
In a skika Sam, it depends on which side.
We were supposed to be collecting signatures last week. What happened, Advice?
In any organization, we always have postponement of things. So this is just because the BBI task force postponed collection of signatures, it doesn't signify the stopping of reggae or anything. So to me, I think unless they come out themselves and say that this is no longer going to happen, I think it would be wrong to judge them on the prism of people who are just playing the politics of this country as always. Because as you can see, the Kieleweke people are busy struggling to tell us that BBI is on. No one asked them. The Tanga guys are really busy struggling to tell us that reggae has stopped. No one asked them. So I think let us, concerning the BBI, let us stick to the task force and the people.
Ulisikia wapi? Yeah, and we'll be getting to much more in as far as that is concerned. Daniel Orogo, my director, tells me that you're betraying continuity. So kindly stick to your camera. It's right here, camera one. And in the meantime, people have been salt baying in Dubai. What's happening with that, Orogo?
I think that question is deliberately directed towards...
Of course it is.
My direction, of course. I think we are reading too much into the visit by the Deputy President. I think he's there for some reasons, which might be personal, some might be consultative. But the fact is that, as a leader, your life do not only become private to you. Once you're a leader, the public has a right to get concerned, what is happening within your life. But we might not really have a lot of information, but what we really see is that he is having some easy time. Is it called Salt Bay or Salt Bay?
It's Salt Bay. And actually, we were told that he went there for a health visit, a checkup. But medics informed me that red meat is not very good for your health.
Yeah.
So what's happening? I mean,
that's what I said.
What's going on?
It's quite some providing to be a challenge to read so much into, public servants and leaders, lifestyle. But I think whether for health reasons or whether for some personal visits, and I saw he's met some of the former, leaders. So probably he's there for personal consultation. He's there to drum up his own support. And he's also there to affirm, and I saw what, through quoting his social media handles, he says that, his interaction with Salt Bay or whoever really proves that, hustlers and the hustler nation, there is hope in using your skills, and talents to make it in life. But let me weigh in. On
the BBI.
On the BBI.
Yes.
I agree with what advisors actually mentioned, that you see, we sometimes read so much also into the processes. We know very well that the signature collection cannot begin minus the publication of the bill and putting the bill toward in the National Assembly. You can't begin to collect a signature.
Or even minus a 3-hour meeting with the Deputy President.
No, I think even having a meeting, that's why I'm saying, for us sometimes we read so much into meetings. I mean, everybody is having a meeting in town.
We are having one right now.
And yeah, we're having a consultative meetings. What really happens that I keep on asking, when does it become news? It's always a news nowadays when the president meets the deputy.
And why is that?
I'm wondering, why has it all of a sudden becomes a news?
Okay.
Personal consultation. This remains the head of state. The other one remains the principal assistant to the head of state. So I think sometimes it's important for us to give them a room for their own consultation. But can I say this? You always like us to be very sober, and you always like us to be very objective when it comes to issues. Sure. Now, BBI, the Building Bridges Initiative, we are having, some issues even within the committee. And like last time we mentioned in this panel, that this is a matter of a national discourse. Is a matter that we are amending a report that will inform the amendment of the Constitution. It is important, and I've seen the direction the president has taken. If this is providing a leeway for consultation, if this is providing a leeway for consensus, minus derailing, the processes of consultation towards the timeline that we have for the BBI, then is the right way to go.
Does that then mean, Orogo,
yes.
Does that then mean, and even as I move to Frederick, does that then mean that not everyone is reading from the same script? Because we've got the Deputy President talking about consensus. We've got the president now talking about the need to either or not listen to a few voices here and there. And we've got the former Prime Minister saying that, there will be no additions to this document and no one can stop reggae. Frederick.
Thank you. Today is so much interesting. We are juggling between meat and BBI. Yeah. It is a nice morning, actually.
And salt.
And salt. Yeah.
And salt, too.
If you mix the three, you understand BBI is a political discourse. And anything a politician advocates for, it's normally intertwined with politics. So the voices you are hearing about consensus, signatures, and the rest, and people reading too much in what my friends are saying we are not supposed to, it's all about politics. And you understand the BBI, those who are advancing for BBI are also bringing in politics. When you heard that we are going to collect signature, that was a political statement. It was not meant to look like we are going to have signatures. Then the 3-hour meeting came in, and the other faction took over it and said, we've stopped reggae. But from where I'm seated, I can still hear reggae. Go to social media, you still hear reggae. Those who are saying we've stopped reggae are still advancing reggae. Those who are advancing reggae are still saying we are going to collect signatures. So reggae has not stopped.
Still performing.
Reggae has not supported. What I know is that people are trying to bring in Ringala to mix with the reggae. And as you see, people have gone to Dubai and still reggae is being spoken about, the hustler thing. So it's very normal. We are actually having a normal political discourse.
Well.
Yeah.
Orogo is so unsettled with your statement.
Yeah, because
I wonder why, Orogo.
I have always a problem with my colleagues selectively, making the assertion very selectively. We are having our leaders who've trooped through, foreign countries. Others have been touted to be seeking for medical help. Others are there for development tour. We are yet to confirm if that is true. But the thing is, and I think you've asked, Sasi is trying to avoid what you've asked.
Yeah.
You know, the controversial, I mean, the differing voices are actually finding their way into the report. And this is what we've advanced and advocated for sometimes in this panel, that you see this report is not cast on stone. This is a foundation document that will guide through a whole nation for centuries. So it could be very important for us to allow in and key in voices, critical voices that objectively, you know, try
Where
to
were
look
these
at
voices before?
Now, the Catholic Church had made a statement about their reservations about the report. We've also had, which you even alluded to before we get to the show, the SUPKEM organization, you know, the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims,
Daniel Orogo,
have
it wasn't
actually
me
weighed in. And I think it was a discussion, the headlines and the discussion that you had before.
You see,
So, why are you trying to
think
vindicate yourself from this? So one of the things that I would say in this set, that I think we are headed towards direction, Samuel, that we are allowing in voices that are having contrary opinion. Let us not say that if Orogo or Advice or Samuel or Sasia have you know, a contradiction about that report, he's, you know, holding grief for a certain political
Can we
opponent.
listen to Advice
So I think
first?
it's important for us to, you know, be objective about it.
Can we listen to Advice first, even as you have some water, you know, gracefully so? Ndio hiyo maji yako, Advice.
Yes.
I'm very sure you've listened to what Frederick and Orogo are talking about this morning. Where does that leave you, even in the light of the fact that the church has pronounced itself on this particular document? Now we have SUPKEM. Which way forward?
I think I like Orogo's attempt to buy in the moderator. But then about...
Did you just do that? You're fired.
But then I think my problem with the people who are presenting in other views to the BBI, and I have no problem with people buying, coming from a different angle and wanting to present other views that may just enhance the document and make the country a better place to be. But my reservation about this is from the view that why would you have an opinion today about the BBI report after it's out, yet there has been 2 years when you didn't present anything to the report, to the task force. I would wish that we are talking about people saying that we presented this view to the task force and it has not been included in the report, and we feel this view would be important to Kenyans. But a situation whereby people did not even attend any of the 94 stakeholder engagement forums, they did not present, out of the over 500 drafts that were presented to the task force, they did none. But then here come a time, and then people have a lot of very good ideas. I think that's a contradiction.
All of a sudden.
And I think that is blackmail to the task force. I think that is a very long way of saying no to the document. And that is why I also don't agree with the aspect of seeking a consensus. In a democracy, people must be allowed to say no and yes. So if you feel that what you want inside the document is more than what is inside the document, then it is simple. Just understand that then you mean no. Now, once you mean no, then lead the camp and say no to the BBI. Then go and ask Kenyans, present your views to the Kenyans and show them why this document is not the right document for them. And then democratically, the Kenyans will speak. And then they will say whether they want the document or they don't want the document. There is no need to struggle and say that we must have a consensus. I think in a democracy, people must be allowed to have both opinions and people must be allowed to make whichever decision they want to make.
All right. Time frame is something that we shall be discussing on the show, in as far as achieving this document is concerned and making sure that there is a buy-in from Kenyans. We will be discussing that in just a short while. Why does the church and now Muslims have a reservation in as far as this document is concerned, and which is the way forward in as far as implementation of the BBI is concerned? No one can stop reggae, but we possibly can make it raga, can we? We'll be discussing that after the break.
Nilitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduzi ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit.
Quickbit?
Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder.
399 shillings.
Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua free. Shilingi 2 unaweza nunua micro. Shilingi 5 unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m, on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m, and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC Online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Ini last but a mark kwa kalenda. Ya ma master maji mabazenga. She's so expensive, okay.
Niweke kwa ina mabuda boss to my kit. Na tumepia na ya kutoa.
Time already, it's time already. Time already, it's time already.
Make I tell you what you love for a bullet.
Baby, tell me this your body, body, yeah. Back it up right away, yeah, right away, right away.
Gang Rada chafu nikishikaga, hizo chafu bana shika shash. Pale bedroom kila siku bash. Hini lichi ndakikomba.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
And Ashok has put forth his proposal himself. You should now be delighted, Prince.
When are you going to understand, Ashok? I know that this time his decision isn't driven by emotions.
There's a threat on our motherland, then all the mothers of Magad will be in danger along with my mother. I must make a sacrifice. You have freed me from my worries by saying these words. To tell you the truth, you are the only person I trust.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You tried to have me killed. You good for nothing. You were a murderer.
But your request has been fulfilled. The woman is now in a better place.
I'm sorry, Mr. Medina, but your card has been declined.
Huh?
Fabiola was attacked and injured while in prison. She's badly hurt.
I swear your family needs some heavy-duty cleansing, man.
Francisco's here with me. He has something to tell you.
In love with Ramon.
Welcome back to the show, and here we sip some water, we don't sprinkle some salt. And this is the only way to kickstart your morning. Good morning, Kenya, and my name is Samuel Njoroge. Now let's take a look at some of the issues that have been informing the discourse around the BBI this far. Frederick, are the concerns by the church, are the concerns by mosques, and by extension Muslims valid in as far as the BBI is concerned?
You see, Sami, it is expected that the church in every nation and worldwide is supposed to bring in a sober opinion.
Yeah.
But when you see our group of churches in Kenya coming in and playing politics, then it is a very sad state. Who then will referee when the politicians are fighting? If they are taking sides and now they are saying we don't need BBI, we need BBI, then it means our churches have become political. The political institutions and the best stage right now to play politics is the church. And I just want to say this: in a normal wedding culture, there are normally 3 bands that are read. If you are against the lady getting married to the guy, then you oppose. But waiting until the wedding day, then you bring in drama. That is not actually the best way to say no.
It's not acceptable.
You are just interested in spoiling the wedding. You're interested in bringing in drama and spoiling the whole party. So that's what you are seeing with BBI. The guys have wasted. The wedding bands have been read. Nobody has said no. And if they've said no, they've said it outside the church, the political church.
Yeah.
Then they come in during the wedding day. They tell us, now, let us sit down and discuss, and the lady belongs to me. You know, it cannot happen. And being politics, you see, politicians have a way in how they bring in politics in everything. So you understand those who are for BBI are also playing politics. They cannot allow the other group to take it over. And the other group is so much interested to steal the last lap and be declared the winners. You see, if they're allowed to bring in the idea, the so-called ideas, of which I don't believe they are, they just want to steal the whole process. Then thereafter, they'll be claiming credit that if we did not propose this, then BBI was a very wrong document. So it is going to be a political document for the 2 factions. Whoever wins in saying BBI is good or BBI is wrong, then becomes a political ideology. But Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga will not accept that William Ruto comes and destroys the whole process. They are going to say no, and William Ruto will continue trusting and telling us he wants to bring in a sober opinion. But it is not about the sober opinion, it is about 2022 politics. It simply wants to draw his politics along BBI, then come narrate to us and tell us that he's the guy behind the new developments in the BBI, the guy behind the new developments in the constitutional changes. So it is not about the other voice. It is about the other politics. It's about the 2022 politics.
Pause Apple. It's about the politics.
Yes.
Advice. Now, the implementation or the consideration of this document comes at a time when we're literally heading into a general election. And there are people who are saying that there are a section of politicians, if not all of them, that are using this document to negotiate for political expediency. How then do we separate that from reggae, as we may want to call it?
Those saying that are partly correct, because in whatever the process is, and in every referendum process, the politicians will always drive the political agenda, and they'll always want to take advantage of that to negotiate for power in the coming election. Politicians will always take advantage of anything. We've seen them take advantage of coronavirus, that even in the midst of a pandemic, the best mask that a politician will distribute is the one that has his name. And when you tell them not to brand the mask, then they would rather not distribute the mask. So that is the kind of politics that we live in. But then, that said and done, I would wish to also say that it is obvious for Kenyans, and it's rather something that Kenyans need to look into and identify where politicians are being political about the BBI and where they are being honest about this document. Because it is unfathomable that then, at the point that the BBI was launched, some people told us that the task force is illegitimate. Now, the same people who told us that this task force is illegitimate, recently the president tells us that they're the ones who are part of the proposers of the names of people to be on the BBI task force. Then later on, when the BBI first draft is released to the public, the same people who said that the task force and everything about it is illegitimate, they support it 100%. Now, after supporting this document 100%, then there is room for another room of consultation, which gives us another 6 months. Then later on, they now come and they have a raft of recommendations that they now want to propose to be added into the document that they supported 100%. And when they were supporting it 100%, it still didn't have what they are proposing today. So that shows you that people are really just playing politics. And after someone proposes a raft of recommendations that should be inside the BBI, there is a meeting that is held in Naivasha for people to discuss what can then be added onto the BBI. And the person who started the conversation of what should be added doesn't attend that meeting. That simply shows you that people are playing politics. Pardon?
Why didn't they attend?
Maybe Rogo would be best positioned to give us the reason why they didn't attend, because he associates more with that side of politics.
I love
what I'm just saying is we must be able to debunk the narrative that every other person who proposes anything to be added in the BBI is because they are coming from a position of they have the best interest for this country. No, they don't. Most of them just are playing politics. And in fact, today, if they were even told that everything you've said you want to add into the document, they will still find some other reason to again propose some other things. So a time comes when a nation has to make a decision.
And
we have a document,
could be
it
one
is
of those
there.
reasons.
We can only make changes on what is already in the document, not new proposals. And once we have that, let us have two sides of the coin. Let Kenyans be able to choose. Those who are willing to support the document, let them support it. Those who are unwilling to support the document, let them be given that chance, because that then is democracy.
But
consensus is not part of democracy.
But you do realize, advice, there's a third side to this coin.
Yes.
It's called coronavirus.
Yes.
And they're saying BBI is not a must.
There is that conversation as well, because when you look at even the budgets that are going into the BBI, it will come from a human perspective to feel, why wouldn't we then spearhead more the aspect of coronavirus so that we don't lose lives? But again, you know, a nation has to run. And every aspect of the nation has to run. That is why the media is still working, the engineers are in the field working, the contractors are working. We cannot really stop the whole nation just because of a pandemic. The unfortunate thing about the pandemic is that, in my estimation, it is more or less being mismanaged, and the loss of funds at KEMSA and KEMRI also doesn't help in creating trust in the people. And that's why people feel like, why is this happening at the expense? Why is the BBI happening at the expense of the lives of people? But then it will be prudent for people to understand that the BBI is running on a different entity, and then we have the management of coronavirus, which has its own funds, and the funds that are getting lost at the coronavirus management are not the ones being used at the BBI. It would be important for us to really segment the two and just ensure that the Ministry of Health under Kagwe tries so much to run the pandemic in the best way possible, because the more we are moving forward, I think we are not getting into the right direction. Right now, our death rate is skyrocketing. Our infection rate is almost at ×4 what we had initially, and so I think it is a high level of concern. But then it doesn't mean that we have to stop everything in the country and just manage the pandemic. The US has had an election despite the pandemic. We've had Uganda is today having an election despite the pandemic. We must also be able to know that we must also carry on as a country. And that's why we said, let us be able to open the economy, let people be able to work, let schools reopen, because at the end of the day, despite the pandemic, lives have to go on, the country has to be built, and everything has to run.
But we also need to appreciate that we haven't matured to the place where we can, you know, entertain alternate ways of voting, like mail voting and everything. I mean, we can barely manage a server, so you know what would happen if we were to go into mail balloting. But Orogo, we've had this word come through. I don't know whether, guys, you're getting the momentum in as far as this word is concerned. Technical. PLO Lumumba termed this document, the wording, as too technical. Now, we've seen SUPKEM say that the framing and the wording and the messaging behind this document is too technical. We've seen a section of other stakeholders still use the same term, that the wording within the BBI is a bit too technical for Wanjiko to understand. Orogo, over to you.
Well, I think the word technical would not be the sole reason to dismiss a document. In effect, when a document becomes technical, then it bequeaths experts to break it down to the level that is understandable and the level that is manageable for mwananchi to understand. So I think from where I sit, I would not really, champion the idea that a document should be shut down because it's a bit technical. In effect, I think processes of civic education allows people to try to explain. In effect, what we are actually even doing here is trying to make mwananchi understand this technical and the meaning of this word. But now, on contrary, I like to weigh in and advise, okay, that other nations that he's mentioned, like Uganda and US and the rest, are embarking on a constitutional process. The elections are enshrined within the constitution. So that bequeaths them that even in the backdrop of the coronavirus, they have to come through with what is already outlined in the constitution. Now, it doesn't mean that us championing for the understanding, the reading, and all the discussion about the constitution right now, do not actually become preeminent to the adverse effects of coronavirus that we are mentioning. Now, last time in this set, we were asking ourselves, could there be a third, the way you've alluded to, could there be a third force? Could there be another alternative voice that would objectively tell Kenyans what really needs to be amended in the constitution without, trying to hood Kenyans in one camp on the extreme side, saying that this is a document that is only meant for editorial bit of it, or a document that, we really need a robust national conversation in it. And that is why I applaud the work of the church, because the church has come out, and not only the church, even SUPKEM have come out to actually represent that critical voice that Kenyans would really want right now. We would be very unfair to dismiss the church, because we've actually seen the struggle that the church has actually laid, even as we were, engaging in this multi-party. So I think, the validity of the voice right now is a question that probably we would take time to
raise that
to verify.
Can we raise that question right now?
We could raise that question right now. But now what the church?
Let's move to Frederick. Kindly. Let's move to Frederick.
I think you gave advice a lot of
No.
It is just about sense.
Let's move to Frederick kindly, and look at the validity of the voice of the church. Can we consider, and by the church I mean religion, church, mosques, and temples and all. The church of Alexander Muge, for example, the church of Timothy Njoya, and the punch behind that voice. Is it the same church? Is it the same backing that we have now? And what is the validity? In the wake of course, Solomon having killed Goliath. Frederick.
You see, the validity is always in question. Why? The same church is the one that gives platform to those who are supporting BBI. It is the same church that gives a platform to those who are against the BBI. So you keep wondering, which church is this? And as always say, personally, I believe the church is supposed to play the middle ground. The church is the one who's supposed now to cool the temperatures. When the Tanga faction and the BBI faction are now colliding, it is the church that should come in between and bring some kind of soberness. But when you find a church that is so much interested in politics and they're now taking sides, some part of the church is saying BBI is good, the other part is saying we have irreducible minimums, then you understand we have a church that we should put in question. Mm-hmm. We have a church that has lost its former glory, and now it is purely in politics. The constitution that leads the church is not what we are advocating for in BBI. The church is led by the Bible. The Muslims are led by the Quran, so they have their own different constitution. They can use the same constitution, the church constitution, now to referee the political constitution. the one that we are talking about, BBI. But for them not to forget all about the Bible, and now they are coming now to the political arm of the national constitution, then you wonder, what is the Bible for? They're actually telling us there are times when you can put the Bible aside and now pick the constitution and run with it and govern with your church with the constitution. So the church should just be sober enough. The church should now come in and play the middle ground. For me, I really am against religion coming into politics. If they have to, then let them play the missionary part of it. Let them bring soberness. Let them educate people. Let them tell people what is good and what is bad. Let them tell people that it is not necessary that we fight because we want to change the constitution. But it is necessary that we change the constitution having a clear mind of what we want to be in the constitution. So as much as the church is concerned, I'm not for it. But then I want to weigh in on something to do with consensus. Dan keeps saying we need consensus, but I keep asking myself, look at the voices the church is bringing in. We already do not have consensus in the church because some church factions or other religions are supporting BBI and the rest are against. So we do not have something called consensus in politics.
In fact, Frederick, the Presbyterian Church in Kisumu could have a very different opinion from the Presbyterian Church in Rift Valley.
Yes.
The Anglican Church in Coast could have a very different opinion from the Anglican Church in Mandera, for example. So how do we harness the voice of the church and how do we make it credible?
And that's why I always say we can always have concurrence, but not consensus. Mm-hmm. Consensus means everyone else agrees on something. But Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, and William Ruto agreeing does not mean we have consensus. We'll always have an advice who will say, no, this document is not good. And that is democracy. I'll not vote in BBI if everyone agrees on it. It will mean that document is not good. Anything that makes sense must have people who are saying not to read. But no such things to do with the political leadership and those temperatures that hike in our political discourses. So let the church sober up. Let the church be the church and leave the politics with the politics. And normally, in normal democracies, the church is normally the referee. It is the sober voice, that is what I expect.
Is there anything like a normal democracy?
It is when people...
Kinda, sort of. You see what is happening with the US? The epitome of democracy. So I wonder whether there's anything like normal democracy. We shall debate that in the course of time right here on the show. Advice. Are you there?
I'm there. Please limit his time. I mean,
you need the handshake here.
Peace, gentlemen, peace. We've got concern now raised by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission that the presence of a contested referendum could actually divide the country in the wake of the 2022 general election. What's your voice? What's your take? What advice do you have for us?
I don't agree with that.
Advice.
I don't agree with that in totality because we have to run away from the narrative that is constantly being created in this country that when people don't agree on something, then it means that the country is splitting. I think that is a wrong narrative. Once we have people saying no to something and others saying yes, it doesn't necessarily then mean that people are going to fight over it. I think the more we keep driving that agenda, then the less informed we are, and the more we actually just want to polarize our society in itself. So it is important that we push the narrative that it is okay to disagree, but then shake your hands after the disagreement and agree with the person who has won and move forward. But making people think that once we run away from a consensus, then it means we are going to fight, it's a wrong narrative, and I don't think Kenyans are actually made from that particular script. Because when you look at the BBI even document in itself, most of the people are saying that it doesn't cater for the interests of the Mwananchi. You look at the MCAs and they tell you the document doesn't have the interests of the Mwananchi. Then when you ask them, what do you then want in the document? They tell you want a car grant. So you wonder how then a car grant is the interest of the Mwananchi. The governors tell you this document doesn't have the interest of the Mwananchi at heart. When you ask them what then do you want, they tell you want to choose our own deputies. So you wonder how is that then the interest of the Mwananchi. So I think at the end of the day where we have reached as a country, we need to agree that it is then not possible to spar and just get a consensus on this issue. And it is not even possible to have it at any other point. And the NCIC should stop telling us that it is impossible and we will polarize the country and we will create, we will kind of have conflict ahead of the 2022 polls. I don't think that is the situation in any way. This country, people have always gone to the polls, people have voted, they have disagreed, some have voted the other side, others have voted the other side. We have sometimes had disagreement, but it does not let us, it doesn't then mean we must push it as then a narrative that once we disagree because of the BBI, then the country temperatures will be too high. People voted in 2010 and we had a new constitution. It did not create tension. We didn't see those who lost. Then William Ruto was leading the no campaign. We did see conflict because William Ruto lost that election. So it is wrong to push that kind of narrative. People should be made to understand that you can go to a process, you can get your opinion, and once you differ in your opinion, it doesn't then mean you disagree, it doesn't mean you fight. Okay. So I think I disagree with that opinion. By
all right. And I don't know whether it's Orogo's birthday, because clearly he can't keep calm as you were talking.
It's his nature.
Because my colleagues have been granted unilateral powers to talk as much as they want,
and you've been denied.
And I've been, you know, every time I try to raise an issue, you know, and I've even been labeled to be a tanga-tanga, which of course
I will be addressing the press at 2 p.m.
Now I think let's on the issues. I agree with what NCIC has just pointed out. This is a commission that was laid on the background of a contested, 2007 post-election violence. And they know better when they advise that the moment you're beginning to take extreme positions about a document that shapes a national discourse, there is a danger of polarizing the country. Now, if we could have that report again, when you go deeper into it, NCIC has even warned that, you see, we are staring at an unstable region, you know, where there is conflicts around, but the gangs, you know, they even mentioned something about the gangs that are within Chinkororo and the rest. If you go through that report that they issued last...
I have.
Yes, there are mentions that if we are not going to, you know, be careful about this, the country is already geared up towards a polarization, and that could be very dangerous. Now, you know, there are proponents, there are people who really want to deliberately push that we have a contested referendum. And I have been having an alternative view about
Is there any other way?
You know, listen, Sam. If you go through the 12-point agenda, the purpose of Building Bridges initiative, it was supposed to restore a new public confidence and much of to be inclusive as possible. You understand? So a document would not betray the cause that which it champions to portray. So for me, ideally, I would rather that we take a lot of time to agree on the details of this report. Taking cognizant that we have a timeline that we are supposed to be, has already been laid out. Because there is a danger in us pushing for a contested referendum. And Saskia, you know, it's quite unfortunate for us to think that, you know, we can't have a national discourse. It is possible for us to have it on issues that are important.
Where have we been?
On issues that are touching on remember, we are amending 15 articles out of 18 articles of the Constitution.
Sessions were supposed to sponsor that particular discourse.
Yes.
Exactly.
So where were we?
Well,
what were we doing?
Waiting for the
and why now?
Over 40 million Kenyans would not. It could be very unrealistic to think that most of them would be as represented within that timeline that was meted out.
Who was blocked
now,
out?
what happens is that even as we have a timeline that has called for collection of signatures, and I'm happy. This is why I am not agreeing with extreme positions on this document.
Some people are supposed
neither somebody saying that there is no addition, neither somebody saying that we must be consulted. Now we have an opportunity, a window, that there is a little bit leeway, a window for us, even as we collect the signatures, to put in our view. This is where Kenyans must actually, we can't repeal a report without, alternative voice.
Orogo, my salary comes from the messages that we're just about to relay right now. So can we take a break?
No problem.
Yeah, sure. Let's take a commercial break. But when we return, we shall be looking into the validity of some of the opinions that have been expressed on this show. And this is the only way to start your day. Good morning, Kenya. We'll be back in a moment.
tonight on KBC Channel 1.
What do you want? Another beer would be nice. I'm an IT man.
I'm positive I can get you a better deal with the same people.
A prisoner named Fabiola Medina was injured, and I have information that suggests you are bothering her.
There's so many terrible things happening to Aswana.
Don't say that.
In love with Ramon. Believe in love. Yes, Daddy was an old-time preacher man. Just give me love when you can. If you need me, a woman in
It is an all-Egyptian affair and a first for CAF as two home teams face each other in the final of the 2020 CAF Champions League in Alexandria. Al Ahly will be all out to maintain their dominance in the elite African clubs competition against their arch-rivals Zamalek, who are raring for a fight to the death. You cannot afford to miss this thriller on the 27th of November only on your True Sports partner, KBC Channel 1 from 10 p.m. We have a lot in store for you. Be on the lookout.
They just never take a break. I don't know what I'll do. They don't sip water. They just continue debating right here in studio. I'm talking about my guest this morning and you who's been a part of Good Morning Kenya this far. By the way, asanteni sana kokuja. Thanks for coming. This is the only way to start your day. Good Morning Kenya. And my name is Samuel Njoroge. And now my producer demands that we have 7 more minutes of this discussion. So I will very quickly go into the closing remarks of my guests. Whom do I start with, gentlemen? Pick, by the way. Juu nikianza na Rogo, mtasema na mpendelea. Nikianza na advice, mtasema sijui nimeonwa kando. So, chukweni.
Because of me, swacha tuanze na Dan.
Okay, this is my opinion, and I think I always have my teacher, and every time we still have a time limit that is provided with the time frame that we have. One of the things that I will still champion for is that no one should read this document for you. It is important for us to have our technical, experts to begin to narrow down on the manageable for Kenyans to actually have their view. I think this is the amendment of Constitution cannot be wished away minus amending the proposal of a report.
That was quite brief from Dan. Let me go to advice because, Sasia is the more moderate one. So let me start with advice, then I close with Frank.
It is important for Kenyans to understand that we have a report that someone has, a task force has worked in for the last 2 years. But then the judgment of this report, everyone is doing it based on their personal interest. It is then important that as a person, as a Kenyan citizen, you go through that document and also make a personal decision based on your interests. Do not necessarily be wished away or be led by the politicians because they are simply banking on their personal interests in this report. And therefore, as a citizenry, let us also make an informed decision about this document based on our personal interest, because no one is going to put our interests ahead of theirs. Thank you.
All right. Sasia.
Mine is to Kenyans. We need to understand that the most repeated statement in politics is the most common lie. So let us understand that the BBI document is with us, and we have something we call truth bias. Truth bias is when you believe someone else who tells you something you even don't know, but you believe it is true. So let us not believe the politicians. Let us not listen to what is most said. let us first go to the document and get what interests us, what is for us. Don't look what is for Kenyans. You are a Kenyan as an individual.
Yes.
So read, pick your part, because even the politicians are picking their part. You and me pick our part, and let us support or say no to the document based on what we've read and what is not for us and what is for us. Thank you.
All right. Uncharacteristically, the gentlemen were very brief in their closing remarks. I usually moderate my way through to Nyamazia hapo, by the way, until Monday next week. But there's this very interesting story that has been covered by the Standard. It's on page 6, and it talks about political bigwigs with eye on PM set for comeback in their home turf. They've given an outline of around 8 areas. Talking about Gatondo South, the current MP is Moses Kuria, and of course, the possible challenger will be Uhuru Kenyatta. This has nothing to do with the parliamentary position. It has everything to do with political influence and who will be the godfather, who will be the kingmaker in as far as determining the outcome in some of those positions is concerned. We've got Sabatia, for example, Alfred Agoy, who is the current MP, going up against Musalia Mudavadi in as far as political influence in that particular region is concerned. Chepalungu, where is he, by the way? Isaac Ruto, what happened? Yeah, Gideon Koskei is the current member of parliament, and in as far as influence on this particular position is concerned, or political influence over Chepalungu, we will have Isaac Ruto, trying to maneuver and play a house of cards game in as far as the outcome is concerned. Remember, this is not only a conversation that we encourage on air, we do the same online, and in the event, due to the constraints of time, that we're unable to entertain your voice, your opinion on air, we shall do so online. Sawa. And that is why the gentlemen will be giving you their Twitter handles in just a short while. Going to you, Advice, what's your Twitter handle?
At Sir Advice.
At what?
Sir Advice.
Sir Advice. But do we say Sasia?
At Fred Sasia.
Orogo?
Daniel Orogo.
Okay, so you can catch them on the social media platforms, engage them on any matter that you've got in as far as the political discourse in this country is concerned. For now, it's a wrap right here for us on Eye on Politics. My name is Samuel Njoroge Asanteni Kwakuja, but coming up next is Jane Wamboi with the lifestyle, not lifestyle, but family check item of the day. Today, it's all about psychology. Keep it right here, the only way to start your day. Good morning.
Defined as an act of couples living together before getting married. It has become a common norm in present-day Kenya, most especially among the youth. We hit the streets of Nairobi to seek the opinions of Kenyans regarding what they think about acts of cohabiting. Take a look.
Kama umeamua kuishi na mtu kimhali na mapenzi na mnaonalia mtawana baadaye. Watu wengi sana wamekuwa wakiishi na watu baadaye wanawatumia na wanawadamu. This is not correct. As a young person, make sure that dating doesn't go up to muishi na ule mtu akujua kimwili, sababu atakuharibu na wengi wao after kuwajua kufanya mapenzi na wanawaacha. Kwa hivyo utatumiwa na watu wangapi kitambo upate ule wako. We kaa mpaka ule mtu akuandikie muende kanisani muoane ama sivyo. Marriage ndio kweli legitimate marriage, si mambo na kushinda ukipeana mwili ovyo. Kaa chonjo.
I think most of them do it because of peer pressure. Because this age, people tend to follow clout, like what other people are doing. So I think people should know their place. Just know what you want. That way you won't be swayed by other people. But I don't think it's right for you to move in with someone, especially because your parents won't approve of you staying with someone and you're not married.
Kama mshapendana si lazima fanye ndoa alafu ndo muoane. Pia bado mkiwa tu mnaishi na hivyo hata kama mjaoana pia naona iko sawa.
I don't approve because this may force some of them to indulge in fornication, which is not right. It's a sin. Yeah, and obviously it's peer pressure from some of the friends.
According to the African culture, see right. lakini unajua times zinasonga na tuna tend kutoka kwa the culture into the 21st century, na set inamaanisha tu tunatoka from letters to phones, things zina change, so mimi sioni kiwa shida.
Haikuangi poa juu tazoeana sana, and then mostly hao wenye wanakuanga wakiishi pamoja, they'll not even end up in marriage, and ina raising issues mingi because zile killings mingi tumesikia about love issues and love triangles zinakuanga za watu wamekuwa wakiishi pamoja. Sioni kikaa poa.
Ina depend na mfuko yako. Kama una do uko ready kusettle, si usettle tu, mfuko yako ndio ina determine. Bora uko responsible enough, unajua huyu ndio dem uko ready kusettle na yeye, ni sawa.
Si jambo nzuri, sababu kama ni msichana tuseme wamepatana na kijana, kitu ya kwanza kama ni msichana wapeane time ndio kila mtu apate kujua mwingine ako aje. Juu kama ni msichana anaweza kibiria kijana na ajue hiyo kijana ni yani tabia zake ni gani. Kama pia ni kijana anaweza shikana na msichana ajue tabia zake ni gani. So mi kwa maoni yangu naona ni heri wapatiane muda, kama wameelewana mambo ya kuona waende kwa wazazi kwanza. Kama ni msichana aende kwa kina kijana ajue hiyo jamii tabia zao ni gani. Pia kama ni kijana aende kwa kina huyo msichana ajue tabia ya hiyo jamii na gani. Lakini si mambo ati mmepatana, mmeongea, mmeanza kukaa pamoja. Hiyo ndio unapata sana sana inachagia mambo ya nini. Kama ni kijana maybe ni mvutaji wa mbagi, anaweza chukua kisu na aduge msichana. Sasa hiyo hata mimi kwa maoni yangu naona ile kitu kizuri ni kama watu wamependana kwanza wapatiane muda ndio kila mtu ajue mwenzake vyenye ako.
I think mtu anafaa tu aishi kwao mpaka hiyo time ya kuoana ikifika. Yeah, and they should go through the right procedures. Maybe waongee na wazazi wajue unakanga na huyu mtu. Like that.
Thank you for staying with us this far. If you are just joining us, my name is Jade Wamboy, and right now we want to move on to the next discussion, and this is all about our family check segment. Today we're going to be talking about the relationship between social media and one's psychology. Given social media images are one of the things that employers are turning to in this day and time to determine whether you are employment worthy, and that is the direction that so many organizations and the future is taking. But looking at what we are posting on social media in this day and time, what does it say about us as individuals, as children, as even parents? What does it say about us? That is what we want to talk about this morning. And we welcome you to be part of this conversation using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle ever remains at KBC Channel 1. My handle is @JaneWamboy across all the social media platforms. And to help us with this discussion this morning, we have with us in studio Josephat Kithelia, who is a counseling psychologist. Karibu sana, Josephat.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you for making time to be with us this morning. And maybe we could start with your social media handles for our viewers to be able to interact with you also on that platform.
All right.
Give us your social media handles.
I'd shared on Facebook, a YouTube channel that my fans and other members will be tuned in. And actually, I've not been too much into the social hashtags and the Twitter, but I will be sharing the cause of, because generally our discussion will be based on the social media image management.
Rightfully
Maybe
so.
it could be one way of image management.
Starting with image right from the get-go. All right. Now, before we get deeper into this conversation, I'm sure you've caught wind of what has been happening over the weekend. This incidents involving our children, such young children who were found at this party, the other girls who went missing, and so many people have talked about the moral fabric of parenting having been stabbed. I don't know, as a counseling psychologist, what are your thoughts about these whole events of this past weekend involving these young children?
Right. Generally, we've got so much involved when we talk about the current trends of conduct when it comes to children and effective parenting. So that can be based from their background of parenting, and at the same time we've got the social media still being involved in the same, since these children must have observed from these medias what happens and the kind of lifestyle and entertainment, so they wish to put it into practice through that one.
Okay.
Yep.
Of course, we also welcome your thoughts about what happened this past weekend, your thoughts in regards to that, especially if you are a parent who has a teenager and they're struggling with some of these issues. We welcome you to share your thoughts with us in regards to that. Once again, the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. And if you have to leave the comfort of your home right now, please do take us with you. You can stream us live via www.kbc.co.ke/KBC-live. You'll be able to not miss out on this conversation. Now, coming to this topic of discussion today about a social media image, from your point of standing, what does it capture? What does it mean?
I'll begin first by maybe putting it into perspective, a clear perspective of understanding first what an image is, what social media, and then the image management from that perspective.
Yes.
I will quote, and you allow me to do this, from the Bible, Genesis 1:26. It talks about when God said, and let us create man in our own image.
Yes.
Image comes first. So I would describe, or I will define image as a representation of an external form of a person or anything in art. That is a superficial definition of what an image is. Then literally, image is the general impression that a person, organization, or a product presents to the public. That's literal. And it's synonymous with the public perception, public conception, public impression, and so forth. Then we've got social media. Social media is an interactive platform that is computer mediated, and it enables the creation and sharing of information, ideas, career interests, and other expressions as per the parties that are conversing.
Okay. Now,
then image management, you allow me to finish with this.
Yeah.
Image management composes of the controlling of that personality, that impact that you create as you try to achieve your goals through these media platforms.
All right. Now, from where you sit, as a person in the industry, as a counseling psychologist, what would you say is your biggest concern about how we present ourselves on social media in this day and time?
All right. The biggest concern currently as we talk now, even some of us, the viewers and listeners from all over, have risked from social media to the extent that they may not be able to access their job opportunities sooner, simply because there is what we call digital fingerprints. Whatever you post, whatever you say through maybe the mainstream media or the social platforms, whatever you put across, it states a lot. And internet is not easy to lose the footprints. So what you do leaves the footprints, that is digital footprints. And they shall impact in future. Because currently, as we talk, the human resource department are using the background in the social media platforms. Leave alone your academic qualifications and what you present, whatever you put across, even in that CV.
Yeah.
Leave alone that impression. There is a lot that is to be figured out about your character and your attributes. This can be found out through the social media platforms. Whatever you post, whatever you like, even from other people's posts, what you like, what you contribute about their posts, and even what you post yourself dictates a lot. So employers currently are going beyond your general presentation to have a background check of what is happening. And that's what dictates whether you get the job or lose it.
Or you don't. Now, looking at the fact that some have looked at that particular school of thought and said, you know, me on social media has nothing to do with me professionally. But that brings in the question of how much is too much when it comes to sharing our personal lives vis-a-vis our professional lives and how they intertwine.
As you share your personal life, for one, it should be controlled, because that's what I mentioned about the image management. When we talk of management, it's a process.
Yes.
It's not an event that happens once. So that process ensures that as you post, as you do anything in the social media platform, it should be done in a way that it's controlled and it promotes what you do or what you would like to do in future. And by that way, it ensures a responsible use in the extent that it doesn't become too much. In regard to sharing, maybe personal life, like I've observed, some of us post in photos of where they have been, what they are doing, and so forth and so forth. There is what we call at the same time social engineering threats or attacks.
Yes.
They can happen at the same time. So you will not only be guarding your image as you control what you post and what you share, but you will also be guarding yourself from the attacks that happens in the cyberspace.
Now, when you talk of control when it comes to what you post, what exactly do you mean? Is it a question of the content that you put out there, or the information, the amount of information that you get to share out there? What are some of these control measures that you think are important in how we present ourselves on social media?
All right. The control measures that we should exercise include our emotional intelligence, that is understanding who we are and how we respond to issues, and how we respond even in our feelings.
Yes.
Maybe when we are triggered by certain events or certain persons or organizations or institutions, you may feel that this has gone overboard and I should react. So you go posting on the social media very fast, and you think that your issue will be taken up and it will be addressed in the manner that it should. But you realize that, as someone said, that calmness is the best cure for a disturbed mind. Whatever you post out of feelings, when you are not sober, it will not be good at all. And therefore, exercising control includes controlling our feelings. That will come from even controlling our thoughts. Because whatever you say, whatever you type, whatever you write, it must have its origin from the thoughts. So exercising control begins with our thinking.
All right. Now, also still on that breath of exercising control, we now have this conversation involving children. We are living in a time where parents are the ones who are buying the children these gadgets and are actually going as far as opening for them accounts. Looking at how you can control that space for this child, how would you advise parents to go about that? Is it even a question of not even opening these social media pages for them, or learning how to manage those pages with them?
All right. With this is very tricky, and it got its background from parenting, the school of parenting that maybe every one of us went who is a parent, because you realize that when I buy my child a digital phone, I think that I'm doing the best to that child, maybe because I didn't have that opportunity during my time when I was a child. But there should be a control in the sense that a gadget that is bought for this child should be looked into from time to time, maybe scrolling and to see what is your child subscribing to. Yes. What are they, which sites are they visiting? And then having time with those children, sitting with them and directing them on the responsible use of the social media, because if you don't do so, you realize that they will learn a lot from other media,
yes.
And if they learn, they will come and practice it from their own gadgets. And with the instruction and observation of what you do with them as the kids, they will learn a lot from you. You are their mentor. If you don't mentor them, then it means they are getting mentorship from somewhere else.
Yes.
And it may not be good.
It may not be good because
Yes.
we're living in a time where we're hearing so many children committing suicide or being bullied on the online platform by people who they do not even know. And thus come in the issue of mental health and the relationship that it has with social media and issues to do with self-esteem and more so involving our children. How can we just try and contain this situation, looking at esteem issues and mental health issues, as well as trying to keep up with the technology?
Wow, that's nice, Jen, and it's a very good concern. Actually, in some of the control measures that we are taking, because this takes a personal responsibility, the parental responsibility, and everyone else in our country. Currently, as I observed this trend with my colleagues that we have always worked together, I realized that we need to create these platforms whereby we share and mentor our generation.
Yes.
And that's our capital in future. And if we don't mentor them on the responsible use of the social media, I've gone to the extent of visiting the high schools and colleges and even the primary schools, so that I engage them and put them in the perspective that there is an effect of the social media that we are engaging ourselves into, and the effect comes in two ways. Could be positive or negative, and I'm capitalizing more on the positivity of it, and then I should also give them some bits to understand what happens when it's not used responsibly. So I encourage even the parent who is listening to me this morning that we should take that role and make it our responsibility, not our duty. You see, when there is a difference between the responsibility and duty, when it's your responsibility, you ensure that it happens. But for duty, you are forced to do. So let us make it our responsibility to exercise that control. And if there are forums, the mentorship forums that exist, maybe from churches, from mosques, and all over our society, whereby we can take our kids and let them be educated, be mentored on what they should be doing and the kind of control they should exercise in their lives.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned the issue to do with educating our children on how they should, carry themselves on social media. And that comes in the issue to do with age. If you are active on social media, there's this young girl, she's 19, she's called Shakila. She goes about doing anything and she wants on social media, and she uses the excuse she's young and wild and living her best life. Issues to do with social media management, do they have to always be linked to your age, such that if you are young, you are allowed to, just do what you're doing? When you grow and you mature, you'll be able to contain yourself on social media?
Actually, Jen, we say life is not a dress rehearsal. And whatever you do in your childhood shall have an impact even in your adulthood. Simply because if you wasted your time, or if you used your time exploring a lot of things that were not of use even to your future,
yes,
then there shall be a great impact. I think that teenager is only lacking some training and mentorship, so that they can understand, they can use that social media to project themselves even in their future. They won't tell me that I will do this and that, and then when I grow up, then I will be able to change and things will be working out for good. No.
So age is not an excuse when it comes to how you parade yourself on social media?
It isn't an excuse, yet generally in life cycle, we've got different categories or ages. And these ages even when you look at the social media platforms, you realize there is an age between, especially between 20 to 35, that is very active on social media. There is a reason as to why, because there are different factors that determine what one does at what age. And then you realize that around 40s, 50s, they are not very busy. But there is a very great impact that takes place when there is high use of social media, and after they stop using the social media, that's when now the effects comes.
That's when the effects
You
start
posted
showing.
this, you used to do this. For instance, I want to contest. This is an example. It's not that I'm contesting for an MCA, maybe in my area. Then I posted something during my young period, when I was young, that is.
Yes.
Then you realize guys will be pulling those posts and the tweets that I made. What happened? What used to happen during this period?
Yeah.
No, you are not worthy. You see, it's making an impact, because I said age doesn't matter. I'm young, let me enjoy myself. But now it's coming with different effects that I cannot contain. And that's how I lose it.
So do you think we need to start having conversations with our children in regards to how they carry themselves on social media as early as when they hit their teen phase?
Yeah, depending with the exposure, because you realize those who are at the rural areas may not have access to the gadgets. Even the parents themselves are struggling to have those digital gadgets. So depending with the area, if it's urban areas whereby the children are exposed, then I would suggest that the training and making them to learn what happens in the social media should begin as early as possible, or immediately the child starts making use of the platforms.
All right.
Yeah.
Remember, we're having this conversation about the impact of social media images, be it for your personal accounts or for business accounts, and what consequences they have for you, your business, your potential employer, now and in future. Now, I want us to bring in the whole aspect of, the employment and the professional side of things right now. Looking at how we go about even just posting our businesses online. Some post it so casually and some go the professional route looking at this. From where you sit and looking at these two groups of people, who one would be professional about how they present their business online, as opposed to someone who's like, it's my hustle, I will do what I want about it online. How would you gauge these two, and what are the consequences of both?
When you post, there is an image that presents. Because if you remember, as I defined the literal meaning for the image, is that general impression that a person, an organization, or a product presents in the public.
Yes.
So if the general impression for what they have posted, for instance, in the business case, if it's good, that's professional way of doing it, then they win their customers, they win consumers, and that's how they make it. But for the rest who will use it just because it's their business, and it doesn't matter what we see. We matter. Customers matter a lot in what they see as you post on the social media. And that can help you maybe get more and more customers, because they have seen it works, and they have been referred by those who have been served well and professionally. That's now when we get a look at the positive impact of the social media, because that's the image that person is portraying as they post.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, do security concerns also have the same impact on when it comes to sharing this much information about a business as opposed to personal information? Because we have seen caution being put out when it comes to the amount of information we share about our personal lives. People can go about sharing their entire day, and you can be able to actually trace them throughout the day and get to their actual location. And that has been said to be a security issue when it comes to personal protection. For business, is it something that you would advise to go all out in terms of giving information, considering the security aspect?
Well, that depends now with the business man or woman who is trading, because with security is a tricky matter.
Yes.
Because you post your items, what you do, and then someone else will be using them for the same purpose to come and see the kind of loopholes. I would suggest that as we make posts, maybe for our business and for what we do and wherever we post from, it should be done in a manner that there are no loopholes. You should explore to ensure that there are no loopholes that can expose you to the predators. Because actually, as you have said from the personal life, if I post, maybe I post, I'm right here, someone will be expecting that maybe after some minutes, you will be leaving. And that's the entrance. So let's wait for this person there. Then I post, then I'm at this and that place. That place is me in very high risk. And the same may happen to the business. Therefore, I'm saying that the point is that whatever you post, ensure that you look at what may happen in terms of threats and in terms of the opportunities.
Okay.
Yes.
And now still on the same breath and looking at just personal security, what would be your advice to those of us who choose to journey with the rest of our social media family throughout the day, sharing with them what we are doing, where we are at, who we are with? What would be your advice to that particular part of the population?
I would advise that you desist from that habit, because actually it will sell you out. And if you want to live a life that it's not about even the physical aspect of approaching the same matter. It may even happen through cyberspace. Cyberspace, I mean, someone will be tracking all your information, what you are doing, where you went. And for instance, if you left your place and you posting that I'm at Diani Beach, Mombasa Pub, and the rest of the things that we post, you realize that someone may stalk to your place and maybe do whatever they wanted to do.
Yes.
So that will originate from the cyberspace to the physical aspect of it. So I would advise that for those of us who will keep always on updating what they are doing, where they are going, their projects, and whatever, everything else they are doing, let us do it in a controlled measure.
Okay. Now, as we draw the conversation to a close, and just looking at this whole conversation generally, what are some of those fundamental points and aspects that we always need to remember when it comes to how we carry ourselves on social media, and just understanding the connection that it has with our personal, professional, academic lives, different spheres of our lives? Fundamentals of social media.
Right. The key fundamentals here, I may not maybe understand where you are coming from.
The take-home that you would want our viewers to just know when it comes to your social media image, regardless of whatever space you are in, and how it interacts with the different parts of your lives. Just remember these items about your social media image.
All right. What we need to understand, or the key, let's call them the key principles and fundamentals that we need to put into consideration as we work or as we do our things on social media platforms, that we are always leaving digital footprints that can be tracked from point A to Z. And again, we are creating an image, an impression to the general public, and even to our potential employers. And these employers will look at our attributes and the characters that are depicted from our social media use. And again, we need to understand that the use of social media can break or make us. Let's not approach it with the perspective that now that you are learning this, you desist from it. No, it can build you, it can break you. So it's all about what you capitalize on that will enable you to move on with your life as you socialize.
All right. There's one tweet here by Jacqueline Hill who says, yeah, don't take it that seriously. What I post when I'm here on Twitter is for fun, and half of the time I'm on Twitter, it's when I'm not busy at work, and at that time I'm either drinking my water or enjoying my drink, and I owe nobody any apologies about what I post on social media. Would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, let her not take it like I said the disease, and she does it, taking it so seriously. But social media, the general use is for entertainment at some point. But what we are exercising is the control measures so that we can contain our image.
All right.
Yes.
Exercise control measures so that you can be able to control the image that you get to portray on a social or media platform, because in as much as people don't know you, they get to understand a version of you from what you get to post on the social media platforms. Now, you had mentioned that part of image is, social media, and you ulikuwa umekata kupeana social media handles. Sijui kama utapeana sahi before tumalize ama...
No, I will give the website and probably the Facebook page that we do use. That is Toplink Image Logistics and Consultancy.
Okay.
If you search us at Toplink Image Logistics and Consultancy on Facebook page, you find us. Then the website is www.toplinkimageconsultancy.com.
All right.
There you find us.
So if you have any more questions in regards to this whole conversation about social media image and how to go about carrying yourself better on social media, you can be able to reach out to him and he'll be able to assist as and when you do so. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. We have been speaking with Josephat Kithelia Joseph. He is a counseling psychologist as well as an image consultant, just trying to see how we can go about improving our social media images and the footprints that we get to leave on that particular platform. Now, with that, we've come to the end of today's program. Thank you so much for being with us through and through. We absolutely appreciate you for making time to be with us. Be sure to join us again tomorrow morning right here on Good Morning Kenya for another fantastic edition of this program. My name is Jane Wamboy. Do have a lovely day. God bless. See you tomorrow.